How's grand final week treating you, Robbo?
Yeah, pretty good, thank you, Jared. It's been a bit low-key. Outside of the two teams who were playing, no Fev on the juice at the Brownlow. Were you at the Brownlow?
I was.
Were you on the juice?
No.
No Gazza decision, that'll be coming next week. Essendon is still looking for a coach. It's been pretty boring low-key, I feel.
Well, it's gloriously funneled toward two teams.
Yes, and I can't wait.
It's got a lot riding on it, doesn't it?
Yeah, always, always.
We'll spend plenty of time talking about it tonight.
Is McClure and King coming on?
Yeah, they're going to pull it apart from all angles.
Can't
the grand
wait.
final. They
Can't
have
wait.
theory upon theory upon theory.
Oh, I'm
they're
sure
going to put
they
them all
do.
past you. You can grade them as they go.
Oh, I will.
This is AFL 360. Welcome to the grand final edition as we look ahead to Collingwood and St Kilda. There's plenty on the spectrum, David King and Mark McClure. And then we'll review the season stories which have provided us with the narrative. But Robbo, before we do,
Yes.
what are you loving?
I love a lot of things in football, but I've got a very special spot for the St Kilda number 12. Now, I've done this 3 weeks ago, but I just can't get him out of my head. He is the key to the game on Saturday. Have a look at him behind us. The third quarter on the weekend, he was just absolutely mighty. Mark McClure played centre-half forward for the Mighty Blues, and I'm going to ask him, where does Nick Riewoldt stand? Does he need a premiership to just get to that absolute greatness that we talk about in football, or is he a great now? He's a special player.
He's going to have an influence.
What about
You've
you?
written around it. Monday night was my highlight, not the medal itself, but the presentation of Jim Stynes and the standing ovation. It was a genuinely touching moment. In the same way I thought that when Ted Whitten was driven around the MCG as he neared the end, it was a chance for everybody to show how much he meant to football and how much football appreciated him. Now, who's to say what the future holds for Jim Stynes? But to take this moment to make sure that whatever happens, that he knows, he would have left that fully comfortable with what he's given to footy and how he is adored in return.
Yeah, well spoken, Jared. And Tim Lane, who sat beside Jim, he's got such a feel for the history and of the game, and he's got such a feel for people, Tim Lane, and he's just perfect. And Jim Stynes, he's just been so humble. And Chris Judd's Brownlow's speech.
Well, it set a tone. It set a tone away from the frivolity of the blue carpet and the flow of beer. And Jim Stynes provided absolute perspective for the night.
I've been very blessed because I've had an insight into life that not many people get. And I know a lot of people do, and they've gone through all sorts of terminal illnesses. But when you're faced with that prospect, it does make you sit back, stop, and go, okay, what's really important now? You know, is football as important? Is, you know, business as important? Is, you know, and you go through all the things that you did put in the top of your priority list, and you realise, as I've said it in the doco, that, you know, my family, you know, my kids and my wife Sam, they are everything to me, and it's not just enough to say it. You've got to live it, you know, and you've got to demonstrate it. And
I reckon that resonated around the room and around lounge rooms across Australia.
Yeah, save the Brownlow medal from the past couple of years of indiscretions which we know about. And good luck, Jim, and the documentary was terrific and the Brownlow medal was equally so.
Well, let's get into the 360 spectrum tonight. It is dominated by the grand final, and one of the central figures, certainly to the storyline as it unfolds, is Luke Ball. Today he was true to his word that he would be right. He trained with the Magpies in front of many. Didn't necessarily go full tilt, but he got through and he seemed to do enough to guarantee himself selection.
Well, if he's got a hamstring problem, mate, he wouldn't have been able to get out in the field, so let's clear that away. I've got no doubts now that Luke Ball will be playing. He's moving pretty well there for a guy who maybe might have nicked a hamstring, so geez, it was pretty devastating footage on the weekend when we saw it. I looked at it and went, oh no, one of the great storylines of the grand final might be in danger. So good luck to Luke Ball. He's through.
What would a suspicious mind say? Would it say that he just had a spasm or a cork on the hamstring, or will we find out in the aftermath that he is really overcoming adversity to be able to play?
Clubs lie. It's the first thing I will say.
Yeah.
He could have had a wooden leg on then, and the clubs will say that he was fine. So I don't know, but I didn't do a lot of physiotherapy at college either, Jared. So you got to trust your own eye. Now, I don't think he would have done that if he had a bad hamstring. He wouldn't have been able to get through it. He didn't limp. He didn't show any signs of holding back in any way. So, yeah, I think he's fine.
What about our two clubs? One, it would appear Collingwood have thrown themselves wholeheartedly into grand final week and embracing all the theatre and excitement that comes with it. St Kilda have said it's round 26. They're fuelled by the disappointment of last year. They held their training session on Monday morning to get it out of the way, and they're just trying to channel in on everything that they normally do.
Well, that's been St Kilda under Ross Lyon for 3 years. It's just shut up shop, don't tell anyone anything. And Collingwood, led by, the president, the most high-profile president I think we've ever had, perhaps John Elliott is up there. Collingwood embraces... They don't just embrace footy, they embrace all of sporting culture.
And 10,000 came out to embrace them right back.
Yeah, especially in Melbourne. But you hate them and you love them. And if you hate them, you've got to admire the way they play football. They are just playing spectacular football, and we'll get to that later. But 10,000 at Goss's Paddock, they were offered the MCG. They didn't take it back. They stuck to their roots. And you would have to say that they are just in perfect nick to go into the grand final.
They are unnervingly calm and seemingly infinitely confident.
Ride every kick, every tackle. Tonight it appeared from where we were to be a pretty easy night for you in the coach's box.
Tim, there's no easy game for me in the coach's box. Still broken those promises before, and the cussing and cursing, mate, still happens, and unfortunately my late mother wouldn't be very happy, put it that way.
Is there any doubt in your mind that you'll win on Saturday?
No.
It's amazing, isn't it? Just listening to you and watching you, the sense of self-assurance, which is great.
Yep.
Does that come from... It must come from the great team ethos you've got, is it?
Oh, it is. It's just the confidence that Mick instills in his players. And I think that, just like Geelong years gone by, and St Kilda, I suppose, as well, they've known that if they all play their role and do the job, they're going to win the game. And that's just the same thing. We just expect guys to go out there and play their role.
Not nervous at all, Jules, to be perfectly honest, mate. Very calm. We've done everything we possibly can. The boys are training well behind us. The crowd's right. Everyone feels good at Collingwood. We're all ready to go.
There's time to smile, time to tell stories, time to take it all in. They are a picture of a club at ease in the biggest week of the year.
Yeah, they are. When we go back to last year in the Premier Final, they really got smackarood by Geelong, and the loser of the Premier Final generally goes through to the keeper, and we forget about it and we go straight onto the game. But footy's changed this year. We're now starting to look back at the teams that didn't make it. I spoke to Nick Maxwell at the start of the year, and he spoke about this confidence of winning the premiership, and they haven't wavered in any way from that. They have, every person you speak to, be it the captain down to the young players, who are excited to be in the team, but they just talk with this confidence in each other. McClure will tell us, and David King, they played in grand finals. Mm-hmm. It's an intangible attitude where, what is it exactly? But when you've got it, you know you've got it. But when you haven't got it, you look at these teams and you think, wow, have a look at them. Look how together they are. And as I said, we've got the two premiership players to come in. We'll talk about it. But Collingwood have certainly got it.
I'll bring you back to Maxwell in a moment. But St Kilda, the common thread there, and they're happy to share it, there's no playing it down, is the hurt they feel from last year and the eagerness for vengeance on that.
Yeah, I don't think you have to manufacture the hurt or anything. The hurt's pretty raw in there for everyone when you experience something like that. So everyone individually, I think, would draw on it from time to time. We don't refer to it too often, but I think individually everyone would draw on it at different stages. And just the work that goes into actually getting there. You don't want to let yourself down.
The advantage, I suppose, that we've got over Collingwood is we have that burning desire. We know what it feels like to lose a grand final, and it hurts. And each bloke's, got different levels of burning in there. And, if a game's tight and tense and we need an extra bit of, motivation, hopefully the boys can draw on that feeling that, might be able to get us over the line. It's
an intense feeling of it that they have.
Yeah, they have. They don't like talking about it. I was surprised at Nick Riewoldt. I've been near to Riewoldt in recent weeks when references to last year's losses come up, and he genuinely gets hurt and angry by it. He's a driven person anyway, Riewoldt. Mm-hmm. We all know that. We watch him, you speak to the players, what was Riewoldt like at half-time last week? He was prowling the room. They're talking about this steel in the eye, and that's what great leaders have got. Rewald's very driven. The whole club's very driven. Ross Lyon is a unique coach. You know, we talk about coaches who are able to get out of what many people would perceive to be so-so AFL players. Lyon's got an ability to get out of them this team ethos, and the team ethos has stood him in great stead. And we laugh about this St Kilda bubble. Well, we don't know what it is.
Yep.
It's sort of manufactured itself from the St Kilda or Saints footy. They're the two slogans. They're the one thing. It's Saints footy on the ground and it's the bubble off it. And that's how St Kilda operates under Ross Lyon. Control what you can control.
So let's come to the Magpies, skipper. And last week you had the privilege of having dinner with the Maxwell family. The story you wrote appeared on the back page of the paper in the lead up to their preliminary final. And the main takeout from it, other than the broader read, was the sense of payback that certainly Nick's dad felt to those who had cast their eye past Nick.
Yep.
And he sensed that he wanted to take a photo of him with the Premiership Cup and specifically send it to those who'd looked past him.
One thing we do in the media and the public who listens to the radio and watches TV and reads the Herald Sun and the other newspapers, it's so much about the players. But the players' parents, they ride this incredible emotional journey, like they do with everyone. Everyone loves their sons and daughters. When they're playing a high-profile sport like AFL, they've ridden it from 14, 15 years of age. And Nick Maxwell got rejected 14, 15, 16, 17, overlooked for the draft twice, trained at Geelong. Bomber Thompson said, we can't give you a spot in the list. He is now the captain of the most famous sporting club in Australia, who runs out in 3 days' time on the MCG. I reckon it's an incredible story.
Yep.
And it was told through the father and mother's eyes. And Nick got criticised a little bit for putting himself out there. And I was really surprised, former players more so, that, he's setting himself up for a fall. But the Collingwood mantra is, don't worry about that. We'll just perform on the field. We've got belief, we've got trust and faith in each other. And I really enjoyed sitting with them and listening to parents talk about their love of their children.
And Nick did not shy away from how that story came out.
For Dad, he'd been asked about me growing up and I suppose the setbacks we'd had as a family because they ride the wave with you, and I'd sort of been knocked back from 4, 5, 6 clubs at different times over 2 years. And for him, him and Mum obviously pretty devastated because I was so shattered when it came to the point where Geelong weren't interested in me, and we basically thought that was it as a family. So for him to see, I guess, me finally get a chance and how hard I've had to work to establish myself at the level, obviously he'd take great pride in that, and I guess I would be the same. It'd just be great to actually show people, look, I got doubted by a lot of people, but this is something we've been able to achieve.
He's very impressive, he is.
He is. The best thing about Nick Maxwell, and he's an outstanding leader, and that's why he's captain, he has got white line fever more than most people I've met in footy. He's such a liked and respected person off field, and he's a nutcase on it. Did you know that they had murder? He had a murderer in the Maxwell family a couple of centuries back, so I think a bit of the murderer comes out in him on the field.
The
You didn't know that, did you?
No.
You didn't read the story. It was in the story.
Murder. What about thievery at the Brownlow Medal?
What happened?
It was a heist, was it not? It was a heist.
Oh, Chris Judd.
Chris Judd won the Brownlow. I thought you'd be affronted.
I've been a long time admirer of Chris Judd, as you know, and I'm rapt that Chris Judd is the Brownlow medalist. And I heard someone say this today on radio, and I really, really agree, Jared. In 15 years' time, we'll look back and we'll say, see Judd, dual Brownlow medalist. And so he should be. He's been one of the best players that I've seen in my time in footy.
The vibe doesn't get to the nitty-gritty of what the Brownlow is in its own year, though. Rowan Connolly provided the first pass through the analysis in Tuesday's Age, and he did use it to cement Judd's place among the all-time greats. This really is a case of familiarity breeds contempt. Hopefully this will serve as an effective reminder to those pair of jaded eyes, those who have turned off Judd in recent times. There were more reservations, though, than that, and they started to come out in the commentary last night.
A bit of a surprise result, but when you have a chance to digest it all, a very, very worthy winner.
Worthy dual Brownlow medalist, isn't he?
I think at the end of his career, you won't be able to hold anything against him being a two-time Brownlow medalist.
You can't deny Chris Judd. Great player. He's had a terrific year. But he blew them away, and I don't think he blew them away in terms of the season he had, comparatively speaking. When we talk about what Dane Swan's done, in particular during the year.
Worthy is not included in best and fairest.
No, it's not. That's a very, very good point you make.
He polled 30 votes, which was a preposterous haul, even in his own mind, from the 19 games that he played. I thought... I've had nasty feedback to this, because if you criticise St Christopher, even though that wasn't the intention of my criticism, they're minting St Christopher's medals at the umpires department at the moment. This was an embarrassing count, because the love affair that the umpires have with Judd turned to outright infatuation. And you knew it was over when he polled 5 consecutive best on grounds, when to most people's eye a reasonable haul from those games would have been 8.
No, I agree with you. You feel bad having a go, as you call him.
I'm not having a crack at him, because none of it was his fault.
St Christopher?
St Christopher.
That's it.
Mike Sheehan, he sort of backed the view up a little bit at least with the umpires' pets. They stick to their pets. If there's one thing the umpires are consistent on, it's their favourites. The umpires revere two firsts, a second and a third. Ablett, a first, a second, a third. Lenny Hayes polls well every year.
You've got to be a contested ball winner. You've got to be hard at it. You've got to be blue collar. That's what favours the umpires.
So the umpires...
Did he deserve the Brownlow medal?
Not this year. I'm totally comfortable that he's a dual Brownlow medalist. This is how this year was assessed, and people shouldn't forget this now that he's won the Brownlow medal. These, all bar the MVP, are week-by-week pollings. 11th in the Herald Sun, 9th in the ABC, 6th in the Age. He won 3 AW. He was 5th in the Coaches Association. He was 8th in the MVP, which is an overall, and he won the Brownlow. This is the umpire's doing. It doesn't make him the best player of the year, and he simply wasn't, and he knew it, and he saved the whole night with his speech.
Yeah, he did. The speech was fantastic. You, King and McClure, kicked me to death about 6 weeks ago when we said, well, I said, and myself and Mike Sheehan wrote in the paper, we didn't think Judd was the most in the top 10 most influential players impacting games of football. I think it's not a disgrace.
No, it's not.
It's a travesty that Dane Swan can only be awarded 2 best on grounds.
Yeah.
It is wrong. It is just so wrong. Even a conservative Collingwood people said today that they had him at about 8 best on grounds, and the umpires gave him 2.
The umpires have decided Swan is a grinder, and that is last year's opinion. They owe it to the game and to the award to be up with his influence on the game, and they missed it. They missed it right through the year.
The game changes really quickly.
It does.
For players and coaches and fans.
And they're the only ones who vote on the Brownlow. They have to keep up with it.
Yeah, well, maybe
Otherwise,
they can't. Maybe they can't. Or maybe they remember that contested possessions and winning your own ball and winning the hard ball is still the most critical element of football.
I only have eyes for you, Juddy. You can add your thoughts to ours. AFL360 at foxsports.com.au is the email. After the break, Mark McClure and David King pick the grand final apart.
It's your thing. Do what you want to do.
Didak in a one-on-one, and then Lee Brown bursting forward, and then with a ball burst to the full forward, it's bounced the wrong way! He's a magician!
Going to Grambl's end right. Lee Brown was able to take it. He goes with a barrel up inside the 50. It's a tumbling foot. He takes a dramatic break. Oh my goodness! It just bounced the right way and through for a goal.
A drilling kick towards Didak and Enright. They hang on to each other. Brown got the front and centre. Did well, the big man. Spiralled an ugly ball forward. It cleared the head of Cloak. What a bounce! It turned at right angles. It's turned at right angles and it's a goal. Oh, no. Lee Brown has kicked the biggest bung forward. Looked like it was going out of bounds. The Geelong back had given up on it, and it did better than Shane Warne's ball in that Canning wicket, of course. His first wicket in England.
It's cleared from half-back, over centre wing. Didak, his opponent goes to ground. Ball comes to Brown. Leroy goes long with a spiral ball from a mile out. It takes a big bounce. You won't believe it. It goes through for a goal. The biggest off break that Mooley's ever bowled, and he's kicked it from a mile out.
It's a bad sign. It's a bad sign for the Geelong Football Club.
If the Fates play that sort of role, they'll be the flag pies soon enough. The weight of 5 premierships just arrived on the 360 set. Mark McClure, 3 of them with the Blues. David King twice with North Melbourne. Welcome aboard.
Good to be here again.
Now, you've been the biggest card-carrying supporter of Collingwood this year. Can you see any reason to have nerves heading into the decider?
No, and they don't have nerves either. That's what I like about it. They've got this footy arrogance, which I think is very healthy. It's exactly where you want to be. They're not getting ahead of themselves, but they legitimately see themselves as the flag winners. And I think you have to be there before you can win one, Sellers. I'm not sure of your thoughts, but they're getting better. They're getting better every week. That's the danger.
You inflicted defeat on the Magpies a couple of times in grand finals, Mark. Can the Saints do it?
Yes, they can. Absolutely they can. In the last 40 years, we've seen 13 sides turn it around from the year before. And St Kilda could be one of those. And out of 18 teams who have played, and only Collingwood have let themselves down, and Geelong are the other ones who are the worst at it. 13 out of 40 years, out of 18 sides. That's a pretty good statistic when you back up again. And St Kilda, you can talk about their hurt. And unfortunately, Kingy played in one and so did I, where you lose. And I tell you, you never forget it.
And you both won the year after.
Yes, we did. We did. Look, I think there's something in that, but they haven't been the best this year. That's the thing for me. Collingwood have been dominant this year. If St Kilda had been exactly as they were last year and had won 20 of 22, I'll go with you. But not this year.
Yeah, but you don't have to be the best all year. You've got to be the best on Saturday. And that's what you've got to remember. They're a cock a hoop when you hear them talk about it. Eddie, Mick, Maxwell, they're all confident in what they're going to do. And I admire them for that. But that won't happen. They'll be feeling the nerves at 2 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, I can assure you.
Can the Saints disrupt Collingwood box?
Well, look, I've got a theory on the game.
Well, you are the best special commentator in the country.
Yeah, I know you haven't got me there. I reckon it's a bit like going to boxing and seeing 2 classic styles of counter punches. They both don't want to throw the first punch, but you know as soon as one throws one, bang, it's the turnover brand of both clubs. They play very similarly. They really do. Collingwood this year are very similar to what St Kilda were last year. So neither of them want to really take a big risk out of their back half because if they turn it over, that's how the other side scores.
So? I reckon Collingwood played some pretty daring football from the back half.
Sure do.
Wide and safe. They don't concede anything. They don't want to open themselves up for the big blow, the counter punch that comes through. And that's what the Saints operate on. And that's the only reason why Collingwood score. That's their main mode of scoring. Lock it in their forward half. They don't score heavily from stoppages. It's more about territory. Get it in the forward line, lock it in until we get a result out of this, and then we'll go again. St Kilda are the same. St Kilda defend from stoppages and then want to score post-turnover. So that's what I see it being this week.
Well, I agree with you, but I think one of the great things with the St Kilda side is that they've got Dawson, Schneider, Gardner, Ray, Peake, Graham and Milne who've come from other sides. 7 of their sides have come into this club and have actually put them into a situation where they're now going to play in a grand final for the second time, and most of them played last year. That is an incredible effort when you think about it. You don't have to have the greatest players. Just got to have the best system, really good feel about the place. You are improving, you're getting better, you want to be there, and these guys love being there. And I think that you'll find on Saturday that the be together type thing, and I know Collingwood have got it too. Both sides have got it, and that's what's going to make it fantastic. But to be together on a Saturday afternoon where you can win a premiership, there's nothing better. Fantastic.
Sellers, I said at the top of the show we're talking about some greats in our forwards, and we've got a great one playing on Saturday, Nick Riewoldt. How highly do you rate them? We wrote a piece early this week about who's going to play on Nick Riewoldt, and that selection, that query will come out in the next 24 hours, 36 hours with who's going to get St Nick. How do you rate him? Is he the key?
Oh, he's a star. He's the best going around. The debate was between he and Brown. Well, Brown can't run anymore. This bloke can run like hell. He goes like a midfielder all day, 16, 17 Ks he runs. He breaks the hearts of the people who are on him. You've got to have 2 or 3. Ben Reid will start on him. I think Ben Reid's got a really athletic body, good kid, and Mick loves throwing young players up against the best, and he does it all the time. Nick Maxwell will come off. He'll come off a Schneider or a Montagna who plays in the half-forward flank, one of those two, and he'll be that floating half-back. But that may be a little flaw because what will happen is they'll just control the ball, the Saints. They'll chip it around and whoever's on their own and whoever's on Maxwell, they will kick it to all the time to drive the coach mad. Whoever the coach.
And when that fails, just kick it in the air and Riewoldt will run on.
And that's what they'll do. If Maxwell drops off, and he will, they'll kick to his man.
Presty, Kingy? Is he a chance to come into the team?
Yeah, I think he comes in. I probably a little bit different. I think he comes in and they keep their system the same. You know, they can put Heshaw up to the wing if they have to, and maybe an unlucky omission in maybe Goldsack or a Blair, who looked a little bit light on last week for me, looked like a little boy last week, and he's had a great last half of the year, don't get me wrong. I think he's a player of the future. But it's a tough game, isn't it? And you need a tough decision to be made, and unfortunately I think they'll make one this week.
Do you think they'll get rid of Blair?
Well, I'm not sure on that, and I don't know anyone down there to be informed about that opinion, but this is a huge game. You know, there's no second prize in this, so you can take the emotion out of it, as Ross Lyon said.
There's some keys for St Kilda. I would shut down Sam Fisher at the back. Yeah, I think Goldsack might be a player to sit in a half-forward line. Since he's come back, he's been playing up the field rather than defensive, so he's tall enough, he can run a lot. You've got to stop Sam Fisher running the ball out of the back line.
And Gilbert. I nearly have Gilbert in front of Fisher for that damage.
Coughs it up a bit, though. That's my only issue with Sam Gilbert.
Yeah, well, look,
but he runs hard.
He runs very hard.
And Graham's the one who actually uses the ball beautifully. And your mate.
Who's my mate? Well, he's not. Brendan, how did you think Brendan played on the weekend?
I thought he was okay.
Yeah.
Let me ask you,
well.
Kenny, is St Kilda's method likely to be deny Collingwood the football at all costs for as long as you can?
Yeah, I think that's the only way they can win. They're not going to score enough from stoppage situations or clearances against this almighty defensive unit of the Pies. I think they have to control the game. Really, it's rope-a-dope if you like. And like I say, not give up anything. You know, they've got a few guys in the back line that really don't go forward. You know, Dawson, Blake, these sort of guys who just chip it around. As soon as it gets in Goddard's hands or Gilbert's hands or Fisher's hands, away they go.
But they're their X factors, aren't they? Isn't that why they're a very strong chance to win? They've got role players who will do exactly that, and then they've got some couple of superstars to really put the polish on, you know, acts of play. Rewalt flying with the mark, Goddard kicking at 65, Montaigne running with the ball, Hayes fighting to the death on the ground.
The difference is, against Collingwood, I reckon you're made to defend for longer. The ball stays in their forward half for an inordinate amount of time. We haven't seen anything like this. And this is their chance to steal a flag, or not steal a flag, but to win a flag while the competition's still catching up to this. And I think that's what will happen. We saw it in 08 with the Hawks, and I think we'll see it this year with Collingwood.
I think you're right, though. Blake, Gwilt and Dawson are the go-slows. Just hung on to pull them down, stop you, don't worry about the rest. I don't need to get a kick because the other blokes are going to get plenty.
The role of the two coaches, not just on Saturday, but in the build, and Mark, you're really big on this, is Mick Malthouse has essentially moved 6 stalwarts to the roles of reinforcements only. Fraser and O'Brien and Davis and Prestigiacomo and Medhurst, they've all lost their spots to young players, which has refreshed them, renewed them and actually made them better than the losing preliminary finalists they were.
You're absolutely right. Exactly what they've done. And what Mick's done is defined their role. Their role is not actually to go out there and win the game for somebody. Your role is actually, if you're in the forward line, you are a defensive player in the forward line and you build up your tackle count. You build up how you can block for someone else. He set them little tasks that made them better players and a better team. The thing I heard about Nick Maxwell the other night was that they don't run in ones. They run in 2s and 3s. They run as a group. They hunt as a pack. And to me, numbers will always beat individuals. And I think that that's a really good point that they brought out. And I think the kids understand that and they work harder to get to those areas, side bottoms, beams, all those sort of kids. They're just sensational at working hard and pushing themselves. That's the difference. Enthusiasm and youth and hungry as hell.
Yeah. Can I ask a question? Did Mick Malthouse come up with this new style of football they're playing, or because Mick traditionally was a one-on-one man, everyone earn your keep playing one-on-one, and now they've got this system in place which is unprecedented. Did Mick develop this, or did assistant coaching, or did they look at St Kilda last year and decide to take it further?
The only difference really, it's one-on-one then until you get in your forward half. Then once it gets in their forward half, then they guard space, the usable space. So sides can't counter-attack. They can't exit their back end against them. So it's a mix. I think he's learnt. He's just, seen what Hawthorn have done, seen what Geelong have done, and stole little bits and pieces and tinkered with his own plan. It hasn't changed their mode with the ball. So that's been a lock. So he hasn't had to teach anything new to his players that he's been promoting for 4 or 5 years. But then this little space thing, they've just grasped it. And he's got some beauties to work with. I mean, O'Brien and Maxwell and Reid, they're elite at reading where the ball's going. And they just get there first, like you were saying before. They know when to come and help. And it's brilliant to watch. So nothing much has really changed. It's just they're doing it far better than anyone else.
They disallow you to run because they've got such quick, small players in their forward line who stop the run out, they chase and tackle. And then if they kick it long, you know what? They just punch it back in. And if you zone like you do with, you put 2 or 3 players here and they punch it back as you should, you know what? There's 2 or 3 players in the right spot, and it could come to you, and back it goes in again.
Isn't it amazing? We're talking about this game. We haven't mentioned, Dane Swan and Scott Pendlebury. I mean, they are just critical. And Luke Ball, he gets up. They've got a really good starting 4. When it's on, they're going to be the 4. Jolly, Ball, Pendlebury, Swan. They're going to be the starting 4 when the whips are cracking.
Interesting stat that I was made aware of today. They are the least tackled side in the competition. Now, for the guys you just mentioned, to not be able to lay a glove on those guys is enormous. They tackle the most in the comp, and they are tackled the least. That just shows you how predictable they are to each other, that they just have this purity in the way they use the ball and this way they work for each other. That's why we haven't seen this sort of thing before.
I think Ballie's a bit of see ball, get ball. They'll fight for it. I think Swan and Pendlebury,
gone.
I think they're quick by feet, but they're quick in the mind. The stoppages now, Kingy, and you were a half-back flanker sort of coming into the stoppages. The stoppages now are 15 on 15. I mean, to these guys who can work through that traffic, and Collingwood have got 2 of the best.
That's going to be interesting this week. I know we've got to get going, but St Kilda always drop one out of the stoppages, so they're going to have an extra number there this week. So how pure they come out of there will dictate how heavily they score.
So you're not big on midfield matchups though in this particular game.
No, I'm not, and I don't think Mick Malthouse is either. They own that. Their rotations allow them to do what they do. They don't pick you up unless you're having real damage.
Clinton Jones.
You saw Ablett. Well, he does, but they can move him wherever they need him. They can move him to Didac if they have to. So I don't think it's a lock at the start. I think they wait and see how things are panning out. If Jones goes in, obviously, they go with the match-up, all that sort of stuff. But I think the Collingwood ethos is let Ablett do what he did last week, and then if it's really starting to hurt us, we'll clamp him. So there's different ways of looking at it, but that's theirs, I think, and it's worked well.
I want to see Luke Ball and Lenny Hayes. That'd be a beauty for me. I mean, a bit of deja vu, really. They've played together as really good close mates, and all of a sudden they're up against each other, headbutting each other, because they do play a very similar role. In and under, get the ball out.
They won't be pulling back, will they?
No, they don't. And that's going to be sensational.
If sat here all year while at the top of the show we've said what we love in footy, I want to know from the 2 of you, what do you love in footy across the whole year? Mark, what touched you? What moved you?
Well, I flew to Adelaide once, about halfway through the year, and did a game, Port Adelaide and Richmond. And you would have thought on the plane over, Drew and I were sitting there going, my God, what are we doing here? But it was the best game I've seen for the year. Thought it was fantastic. Loved the way they went about it. This young side was their first win for the year. Damien Hardwick took a side over there. It was around 9, 10 or 11, I can't remember exactly. It was pouring rain. You couldn't even put your foot... Port Adelaide didn't even want to come out in the ground. They were tiptoeing through the puddles. But Jack Rewalt and Dustin Martin and Nahaz and Tuck and young Benny Nason and those kids, I actually love watching it. And at the end of the game, they came in and they were covered from head to toe. Couldn't tell the numbers, couldn't tell anything. But the Port Adelaide blokes didn't have a drop on them, they didn't want to know. And they played a poor brand of football when Choco was in it. You could see that it was the end of Choco then. But to come in and listen to that song at the end was just something spectacular.
I
Seriously,
would never have picked you as the misty-eyed, sentimental fool you've just revealed yourself to be.
Softy.
How about that? You still retain the capacity to surprise.
Well, you've welled up a little bit there.
Well, gee, it's done.
What have you loved?
Look, I cried on the way over. I didn't cry on the way back.
I love how our game is different. It's different for everyone. I think that you look at the weekend and the Waffle Grand Final, Andrew Cracker being able to do what he did on the weekend. He's come from a long way back. He obviously lost his ability to be involved in the AFL system. He's done it hard. He's spent time inside, as we know. And to come back and just stamp himself on the Waffle this year just shows what our game offers to people who need a direction. He had 40 possessions on the weekend. He kicked a goal at the 32-minute mark of the last quarter to win the game for Swans by a point. Now, that doesn't get any better than that. And I'm not emotional, but you just think fantastic for that young kid to be able to get another opportunity at life, really, and that's what our game does, and I love that.
Where will he go?
He'll go to West Coast, I think. He might be pre-listed by the Gold Coast and then on-sold, if you like, but I think he'll go to the West Coast Eagles.
Terrific to have your company throughout the year.
It's been okay.
Yeah.
It's been okay.
Some moments have been better than others, Bravo.
Oh, yeah, you've been okay.
You're not a greenie, are you?
No.
You just hate Judd.
No, I don't hate Judd.
He didn't get in your top 15.
What about St Christopher here?
Didn't get in your top 15.
Top 12. He wasn't impacting the game then.
He had 18 votes in the Brownlow.
He had the Brownlow shot the bits by then. Who wins on Saturday, Mark?
I'm actually going Saints.
You're not.
I am. You can go whatever you like. I'm going. There's another side if you want to take them.
Finishes you mean to have gone right through and disagree to the last.
That's your third team for the year. I'll go Collingwood by about 40 points. I think they're clear.
40?
Yeah.
They won't kick 40.
Okay.
They'll restrict them to... Could be a soccer match, seriously.
Well, unless there's a draw, that's it for you, lads. Thanks
Thank you.
very much. Mark
Thanks,
McClure
boys.
and David King with us on AFL 360. After the break, we'll look back at the stories that have shaped the season.
The end is right. I hope you had the time of your life.
I spoke to him at quarter time, didn't really work that well. I spoke to him at half time, didn't work that well. I spoke to him at three-quarter time, didn't work that well. So maybe, I don't know whether I will speak to him about the game.
Sorry to be boring, but we haven't won a lot of games, so everyone's pretty good, believe me.
Do you want to respond to that, Dave?
I mean, not just that performance. So your name? Your name? Guy?
Let's talk about what happened on the paddock and leave the bigger picture stuff to those that can sit around and have a cup of teas and got time for that stuff.
Oh, with all due respects, no. Oh, please.
How many?
I'm not sure.
36. Isn't it?
That's close to the most embarrassed I've been of our group. Yep, no doubt about it.
No, I just said to Spadey, to Ben Spade, mate wanted to go on to half forward and he ran on. That's a lesson I can learn as coaching from the bench. Yeah, go on when the other player comes off, don't just run on.
I would love for you guys to experience being on the road for 12 to 14 times prior to today. And this is not an hour flight. Or not a 2-hour flight.
Now we said, let's win it for Frank. Yeah, not really.
Any more questions, you blokes? I'm getting tired up here, for God's sake.
I'm never happy, you know that.
That's true.
A few of the moments that it's hard to forget from our coaches.
I love the cutting of season highlights, and they go through so many ups and downs, coaches. We don't have much idea, unless you've coached in any capacity whatsoever, dealing with an AFL group. Most of them are fantastic.
At the outset of the show, I floated the theory past you, Robbo, that 3% of the people take up 80% of the time. And that's surely never been more true than over the last 12 weeks that we've done this. So,
Yes.
to the stories that have shaped our season, we're on the clock here, 60 seconds a topic.
Am I talking or are you talking?
Both. It's the
Righto.
story that just keeps on giving. James Hird, Matthew Knights, Essendon.
The clock started.
You've wasted 5 already.
Well, I've only got about 10 seconds of speak. Hird will be watching this because he always watches this show and he was hoping we wouldn't talk about it. This blew up, of course, when Hird said he wanted to coach.
Well, you blew it up, let's be clear.
Well, I wrote it, he said it. Deep in his heart, he wants to coach Essendon. Watch this space. We've been saying this for 3 weeks on this program. Hird wants to coach Essendon. If he can get his life together, he will be coaching Essendon. And when I talk about his life, I'm talking about his business life. He works at a high profile, lots of money making, and it's whether he's going to leave that and take up coaching.
Part of me hopes that he does do it now. I'll feel a little bit denied if he doesn't take it on, because
Why?
it is such a beautiful story that he would go back and coach them. And if we're at this point where
10,
we assume
9,
we assume
8,
he's going to do it.
7.
Just a note on Matthew Knights, it was a gruesome ending, and coaches shouldn't go in that manner.
Not the best.
Not so far out.
It wasn't the best. It took up all the bloody time.
Jason Ackermanis, Robbo, first banned, then sacked by the Western Bulldogs. A spectacular and unseemly aftermath. A book, too many interviews, just far too much acrimony at the end of a relationship.
In my personal opinion, as I want to stress, this is only my opinion, Acker started the year an AFL hero, and Acker ends the year, in my opinion, an AFL outcast. I think he has shat. Am I allowed to say shat?
No, but it's too late now.
I think he has soiled too many people going out the exit door, and I think he had to be a little bit more humble. I know he was hurt by what happened, and he's going to have enemies for a long, long time, but it's really sad that this great footballer, I mean a great footballer, who did things that people couldn't do on the football field, departs the way he has.
Strong time for the Bulldogs after a mistake to continue him on for an extra year. I hope they reap the benefits of what they started in terms of the leadership. They're a good club. I think they'll be proven to be a good club.
Mine go third. You got 60 seconds.
Righto.
Gold Coast and they're recruiting.
We knew in February. Everything we knew in February has come to pass. Jared Harbrow, actually Campbell Brown was the very first name linked, and that flushed out the loophole that was in operation. Jared Harbrow was then immediately linked to them, and his manager said, no, we're not going to do that, but we're not going to talk to the Dogs to the end of the year. And he knew, as has been revealed since then, that March would be the time. Nathan Bock was quickly linked to them, and until Adelaide's season finished, that's how it went. Michael Riscatelli was always
going to go
there.
Fast forward. Gary Ablett.
Well, he was the sixth name linked. So for 5 of the 6 to be proven correct and for 1 to tip over at the end would be unlikely in the extreme.
He's gone.
Of course he's gone.
He's gone. Gazza, tell us, get it out of the way. It's dragged on too much. No one's going to hate you. Some people will, but most won't. You've been a fantastic football for the Geelong Football Club. If you have to go to greener pastures, go and do it. But just say it.
Brendan Favola, absolutely disastrous move to the Brisbane Lions on every front, and it only remains to be seen what the final cost and toll is.
You'd have to say the worst high-profile trade in the history of player transfers. It's decimated the club, his salary. The club wants to get rid of him. The players are supporting him. There's just civil war going on at that football club. How the mighty Roman Empire has crumbled from the 201, 202, 203. Favola, you know, you try to feel sorry for him, but you just can't. He brings so much on himself. It's, again, sad that this person was born with so much natural talent. We've been at the G, you've called Jared. The noise when this man goes to the ball, to think that's come to a horrible, sad and indignant end.
Well, it's a story without an ending still.
Do you think he'll play next year?
No, it's not going to be a good ending. He won't play for the Lions in my opinion.
My go.
All right.
Because you wanted to be Ben Cousins.
Well,
I asked you one night, who would you rather be, Ben Cousins or Brendan Favola? And you said Ben Cousins, a recovering drug addict.
Yep.
Tell me about Ben Cousins.
Amazing that he was able to complete what was a circle of redemption and leave footy on his own terms. The chances of that happening were minimal. He took us on quite the journey through the year with all manner of rumour around at the start of the year, and some of it was unfortunately aired. He seemed to have paparazzi out the front of his house most of the time that he returned home. He led us down a path. Do you recall the sleeping tablet caffeine story?
Yes.
Which was utterly irrelevant to Ben Cousins' situation, but there we are. 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks we spent through that.
Rushed
and then when he retired,
6
television stations carried the press conference live, not to mention radio stations. He walked out of footy with his head held high as a redeemed figure, and I think we all cross our fingers that he stayed.
Yeah, well spoken, well spoken. You know, I watched the documentary, and when he was sucking down on that ice pipe, and then to see him play his last game for Richmond, and I was there, and the crowd stood up and applauded him. I thought to myself, this guy's not gone circles. He's done about 1,000 circles with his eyes rolling like this, and he goes out to a standing ovation. Only Ben Cousins can do that.
All that's left for us, Robbo, on 360 is to tidy up Gazza Watch and the final Who Would You Rather Be?
Johnson, can he pop it over the top? Ablett somehow has found some space. At the last minute, Zach Dawson spilled it, but a clever soccer by Scarlett to Ablett from 80 metres. He drills it long to
Stevie J. Look at Ablett's got off the chain. He's got off the chain, Ablett. Here comes Dawson. A desperate handball in there. Back to Ablett. Ablett can run to centre-half forward. Straighten up. Go very long. Fisher and Rook back there. No one can take the mark. Varco. Chapman has kicked a goal.
Yes, Chappie.
The Cats hit the front in the grand final. Chapman's got goal number 3.
Johnson's just got to see him. He does. Ablett had hung there for a long time. Dawson made the spoil. Towed from Scarlett to Ablett from 60. He kicks to the square. Rook with the flight. They all pile in. Varco, hand pass. Chapman has kicked the goal. The Cats are a goal in front.
He sees him. He's got to kick it to Ablett. Ablett takes the mark. No! Zach Dawson saved the day. But Scarlett got it back to him. Ablett through centre half forward. Gary Ablett's kick won't have enough on it. Fisher. Will there be a score? Will there be Varco? Paul Chapman goes his own sweet way. He goes his own sweet way and kicks what could be a golden goal.
One moment to define a season, Robbo. One moment. I wonder if we'll get it again on Saturday.
You and Anthony Hudson, your good mate, that was like orgasmic from you two.
Do you think?
Going off the
tell?
planet. Oh, it was a great moment, wasn't it?
It was.
Absolutely a great moment. That could be our Gazza watch. That's enough for Gazza watch because, in that moment, it'll go down in footy history, that moment. I'm not going to see him again in the hoops, Jared.
No. Have you been happy with Gazza Watch? Gazza, he showed the gamut of emotions in the past 7 days.
Yeah, he has a bit, actually.
Sadness at the end of Friday night. I've never seen him more relaxed than at the Brownlow on Monday.
We got highlights of it? Is that a cue?
Just peer down here.
I'm peering. There he is walking off the ground after the game. Yeah. It's been a hell of a story, the Gary Ablett. We've been talking about it for 12, 13 weeks now. And really, we don't even know officially what's going on. He could come out next week and say, stuff, I'm staying. But we've had story after story after story. And every week we say, we still don't know what he's doing. And at the end of the year, we guess, but we still don't know what Gary Ablett's doing.
What are you going to replace Gazza Watch with?
I don't know. We'll think about that.
You're going to have a bit of a think.
We're going to have another watch, are we?
I think so. It's been profoundly popular.
Well, you might have Gazza Watch on the Gold Coast.
On the email, we have the theory being put numerous times, good player in a dud team is why Chris Judd won the Brownlow, a throwback to how the Brownlow used to be. Jeremy in Berry has sent through that Judd carries his whole team on his shoulders and Swan does not. 41% of the vote. You could nearly win government with 41% of the vote these days. And Brent in Vermont has sent through that Mark McClure would rather be poked in the eye with a burnt stick than tip Collingwood.
Yeah, he would. He doesn't like Collingwood, Mark McClure. I don't know why. He must go back to his childhood days in the 30s. Just doesn't like Collingwood.
Righto.
You know why? Because he beat them. He was best player in finals against them. He smashed them personally.
Who would you rather be, Robbo?
Who?
There have been some many and varied choices, but this is specific to grand final week. Would you rather be Mike Brady or Mark Seymour? And this, of course, gets to Up There, Kazali or Holy Grail.
Wow, you finally got me on one that I don't know. I sing Holy Grail better after a few beers in September, and I think it's a song that everyone really gets involved in, cuts to the core of football. But who's the other bloke? Mike Brady. He come up with a collection of them. I'm going to have to go the collection. Mike Brady.
Mike Brady. Well done.
Righto.
Okay.
Geez, that's a good one. Did you come up with that?
Yeah.
That's a ripper.
We've worked on that for a while.
I had one. I was going to ask you a really boring one.
Yep.
Who would you rather be, Mick Malthouse or Ross Lyon, which is boring?
Oh, righto.
Who would you rather be?
I'd be Mick Malthouse. Legacy.
You don't want to be Ross Lyon?
No, legacy is on offer to Mick Malthouse this weekend.
Don't like Ross Lyon?
Ross can become a premiership coach, but Mick can seal his legacy.
All right, now, well, I've got a better one.
Okay.
Who would you rather be? List manager of the Brisbane Lions Football Club.
Right.
Or chief architect at the Commonwealth Games in India.
That's outstanding.
That's brilliant.
I don't mind defending either of them this time around. Yeah, well done. You didn't come up with that, did
I didn't come up with it.
No,
David King came up with that. Well done, Kingy.
I'll be the list manager because no one will die at the Brisbane Lions.
No, that's true. Let's hope that doesn't happen.
Who will win the grand final?
I think Collingwood. I think they've got the best system in football.
I think Collingwood as well, and I'll share a secret with you. I hope they do because everyone, we have this, it's inbred in us that we're supposed to hate Collingwood. I want to live through a Collingwood premiership when I'm old enough to know exactly what it means. And by Monday lunchtime, I'll be desperately regretting that.
Yeah.
Because 36 hours might be enough. Robbo, enjoy the grand final.
Righto.
Your company's been super.
Thank you,
I'll
Jared.
be back next year, and God willing, they might let you back as well. That's AFL 360. Enjoy your grand final.
This has been a Fox Sports production.
AFL 360 is proudly brought to you by Toyota, the car company you can trust to give you more. Oh, what a feeling. Toyota.